Guys, welcome to Pantheon podcast with myself and Mark, Plymouth's finest, most beautiful men. Probably the most beautiful men in Plymouth, I would imagine.
We're definitely the most beautiful men in this garage.
Well,
that can be said.
I agree with that. Just a little bit of an introduction then, guys. We've got Jimmy Johnstone tonight, the black belt jiu-jitsu, head instructor of Real, gym owner, world champion. The list goes on. So, Jimmy, I'm going to hand it over to you, mate. And if you can sort of just give us a little bit of background about yourself, where you're from, what you do. Take us a little bit. We've already got some points that we've discussed. So if you want to delve into those a little bit, that'd be cool as well.
Guys, thanks for having me on. Good to see you both again. This is my first podcast. I've been asked before to do them, but this is my first one. So, you might have to keep me on track. I'm kind of like I'm a council estate kid from Birmingham, from a big family, but we're a separated family. We were all put into foster homes and foster care when we were kids, it was tough. We were on a really tough estate. The same as a lot of people in the cities. It was just basic. I think it's a pretty normal inner city life. And when I talk to people about it, they might think it might sound a bit extreme, but it was pretty common back then, to be honest. My dad was in and out of jail. My mother was kind of never there. So we were kind of, a load of kids kind of trying to look after ourselves, and then we would get put into foster care, then we'd get brought back, and then we'd go into homes, and then we'd come back. It was crazy for a lot of years, So that was pretty much my youth up until the age of sort of 14 and 15, really.
Yeah, that sounds that's a fairly tough upbringing, mate. Were you scattered around the country when the foster homes, or were you always in the same sort of area?
All over. Right the way up into the Scottish Highlands.
Wow.
Boz is up in Oban at the minute, and whenever I talk to Boz, it's always nice. So I've got really nice memories of Oban when I was fostered there as a kid. It was probably the nicest home that I was in.
Yeah.
So from the south coast to the Scottish Highlands, we kind of put anywhere that would have us, really.
Yeah, I think we were speaking about this with Kieran, one of our guys, last week about how important family is to young developing adults in sports and stuff like that, and not to have that kind of security behind you that many kids do. It kind of does actually put you at a disadvantage in life, and the fact that you've moved on and done what you've done is it's pretty amazing, really, mate.
Well, yeah, I mean, we see it all the time, and with the kids in the gym, that the ones that excel are the ones with the support network there for them. The mums and dads that will drive the length and breadth of the country to take them to competitions and to pay for them to go to the Pan Ams and all that stuff. It's very expensive. It takes a lot of time and resources, and the parents that put their time in are generally the ones that have the successful kids. So yeah, because I was from the background that I would fight a lot, and when I was about 15 or 16, there was no more homes that would have me. I kind of got kicked out of all of the homes, but it was not because I was a nightmare, because it was just a different time. I'm 47 now, so this was a long time ago, and things are very different from the way that they are now. And we all fought back then, you had to fight to survive in these homes and stuff. So, but the problem is, I would get kicked out of a lot, and then eventually they wouldn't place me anywhere. So at that age, I was living on the streets of Birmingham for some time in public toilets and train stations and undergrounds and stuff. So I didn't have a support network, and I didn't have a family network, and so I'm very proud that I've achieved what I've achieved. But I'm not the sort of guy that sort of stands back and look what you've achieved from this. I'm not that guy at all, and I keep getting told that I should stand back and give myself a pat on the back sometimes, but there's always the next thing for me. There's always something else to do, so I don't stop. I just keep driving forward.
Yeah, I like that, mate. That's like you say, sometimes it's nice to be. I think for me, it's nice to be told by others that you're doing really well. Like sometimes I'm like you. I just want to do the next thing, the next good thing, and keep rolling forward into it.
I'm the same as that. I can really relate to that. But go back to what you said just now about the ones that succeed. The people that succeed are the ones with that support network. I think, in a way, what you just said that's a key trait of people that succeed as well. Sometimes to their detriment, right? Because you achieve, and sometimes you achieve these incredible things, and you never stop to just like sit with yourself and go, actually, I'm pretty proud of myself for that. You're just like, wait, what's next? And you do, and people around you start reining you in and going, are you not going to just take 5 minutes to acknowledge that you've just done this? And you're like, yeah, no, it's great, but we've got another mountain to conquer now, you know. And it's not I want to prove myself to the world thing. It just seems like a natural thing, I think, of just, you know, being humble. It was great. I worked hard for it. I'm really glad, but, you know, there's lots more to do. I think that is, you know, I read a lot of books and listen to a lot of other podcasts of quite famous and influential people, and 99.9% of them all say the same thing. You know, they get these great wins and then they're straight on to the next one. You know, minimal time to celebrate, straight on to the next thing.
Yeah, if I have a good competition and I've got like a week to go and I've performed really well, then I'll maybe allow myself a tiramisu.
I've seen.
You know, I'm straight back on to getting ready for the following week. But yeah, I think you have to have a balance. I think a lot with some parents, they can drive too hard. Yeah. And I think there has to be a balance. Kids have got to be allowed to be kids. You know, they've got to have that, because their mental well-being and their confidence is all going to come from that family unit. You know, and if they, I think they've got to have that love and that care and that time just to be children, and they can then really depend upon their parents and not just be, you know, if your dad is only your coach, for example, I think that's a real shame. I think you missed out on a great opportunity to have a fantastic relationship and loads of great experiences. So I try to tell the parents, you know, your kid's good and he will achieve great things, but you must let him be a kid. You know, and some kids now in the UK, wow, man, the level is phenomenal. It's incredible. And they're just getting much, much better and better every year that comes along, this new batch. But you've still got to allow them to be children, because they'll burn out. The lifestyle balance. I mean, if you look at a lot of athletes that are just pure winners, like Michael Schumacher and who was the cyclist, the one that got done for Peds?
Lance Armstrong.
Man, I mean, it was all about winning. There was no balance at all. I think having that balance is important. You know, so you're going to have some nice family time and enjoy time with your kids, and then when you're, you know, if you're an athlete, you go and do your business. You get to work. Once your work's done, you enjoy your life. But you've got to have a life, I think. Yeah.
So, do you know what? You know, that work-life athlete balance, you know, is I've realised something during lockdown for me personally, that I wasn't having a balance. It was always one side of the balance, and every now and again I'd just be burnt out. I'd be ill for a week, wouldn't train because I was trying to train and fit that into my very limited time that I have with my family, because all I did was work and concentrate on the business and things like that. And now I've taken a step back a little bit. It kind of like, yeah, you've got to have that balance, and especially for kids, you can't force feed them to do things, you know.
Yeah, I sometimes have to have conversations with the parents about it, but usually they understand. But for me, I know when I haven't got that balance right, because I'm not content, I'm not happy. You know, when I've got that balance right, then everything's in place and I feel happy. Everything else around you just falls into place if I've got that balance right. So I think it's really important that you enjoy your time with your kids, enjoy your time with your family, enjoy your home time. When I come home, I'm just so relaxed. You know, I love being at home. I love getting up in the morning and doing a school run and spending time in the garden with the kids. It's just awesome. You know, I'm so happy here at home. And I think the key to success is, you know, having that balance.
Yeah, right. I agree. I totally agree, mate. So you cutting back. We've gone off a little bit off the topic there. So we're cutting back to 15 years old. You're on the streets of Birmingham. At what age and when did you start? When did you find BJJ? Was that still later on in life, or?
Well, I started doing karate from a very young age and the kickboxing. Yeah. And one time I was in our kickboxing gym, and there was a guy that used to train kickboxing with us, and he went off and he did to do some grappling. I can't remember what grappling it was, but it was. So we didn't see him for about 6 or 7 months, and then he came back, and he wasn't a very good kickboxer, to be perfectly honest. But he came back after doing some grappling, and for some reason the instructor had the hump with him, and I don't know if it's because he thought he was trying to sort of peddle his grappling or whatever. And so the instructor said, show me what you've got. and he kicked the instructor's ass after just 7 months of grappling experience. And I don't know what it was. It might have been judo or something, but I was fairly young. And I wasn't in a position to ask too many questions. But that was kind of my first experience of seeing grappling. But BJJ was like in 1991, I think. There was, do you remember when, well, you know, as old as me, but when the IRA were bombing London back in 91, I was working in North London, Golders Green. And you could hear the bombs from my workplace. I was working in this restaurant, and we had a pot washer who was like half Brazilian, half Italian. And one night there was like an old cardboard box outside the restaurant, and so we couldn't go in there because it was all cordoned off with the bomb squad and stuff. And I was going to go home, and this kid Nicky said to me, "Let's go back to my place and wait for an hour and come back and see if we won't lose the night's wages." And I got into his house, and there was no mats. There was no furniture in the living room. You know, there was just mats on the floor. And I thought it was some weird like sex thing trying to bring me into it. I was very dubious. And then he explained to me what it was he was doing, and he just had a few friends over to do BJJ. That was back in 1991, but of course at that time there was nowhere to train, and so I would train with Nicky in the afternoons and trying to get as much knowledge off him as I could. And then he went back to Italy, and I'd done some judo then because I found some judo. Up north, we're much luckier because they have like catch can and wrestling clubs and stuff. But down south, we didn't really have very much. And even like back then, even Pain Crace wasn't around at that time. So I kind of went back to kickboxing and boxing and done some karate. And then I didn't find it again until I was 31.
Wow.
So yeah, big gap. But my first experience was very early on before the UFC, and like when I was, watching UFC 2 for me was the one when I saw Hoist. But more importantly, actually, I think Remco was kind of my biggest inspiration. Although he was a much bigger guy, he was still very technical, and I loved how humble he was and how respectful he was, and he kind of epitomised everything in the martial arts. I think like Hoist was great, don't get me wrong, he was awesome, you know. But Remco was my favourite, and unfortunately enough that we're good friends today, and I was talking to him just today actually.
Amazing.
He was my inspiration really to start fighting MMA.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I'm just trying to think, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes here, back to when I first started. When you start, because I'm just trying to think about the way you're saying about how you learn in this guy's house and everything like that. When did you start learning about competitions and stuff and start thinking you wanted to gear yourself up and test yourself and, you know, see what you could do?
Well, of course, back then there was no competitions in the UK. There wasn't any.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't until like in my early 30s that I thought about competing, and sort of. But for me, the minute that as soon as I was able to train every day, I trained every day. I just loved it. And like I think for some people, that humbling pressure that you feel and that sense of complete helplessness that you feel when you start, some people just hate it and it puts them off forever. And for me, I felt like it was like a drug. I had to have it. You know, I needed it, and I fell in love with jiu-jitsu completely and utterly, and then everything else stopped. Like my boxing stopped. It wasn't when I fought MMA, I would go back to some striking, but all I wanted to do was to get that gear on and train. That's all I wanted to do. And then once I started competing, all I wanted to do was compete. Yeah, I fell in love with it straight away. And you know, my kids, all of my kids do jiu-jitsu, so the whole house they're completely jiu-jitsu. My wife does jiu-jitsu now, and so yeah, so it's I was completely hooked right from the very start, and I still feel today as hooked as I was back then. I'm still as much in awe of it as I was back then, and I still feel as useless as I did back then. You know, every single day, and I feel like I need to improve an area of my game, and I'm constantly working on improvements.
Nice.
Micro improvements, big improvements, different types of guards, the way I approach certain situations, and I'm constantly trying to learn more. And you know, I was always very greedy with my jiu-jitsu. I just wanted it all now, and I kind of learned it doesn't work like that. You know, you drip for jiu-jitsu to a degree. You know, you can be responsible for your own development to a large degree, but we learn at the pace of the rest of the class mostly. And I just wanted it so much quicker. So when I wasn't training in the class, I was on the mats at home. I was watching videos. I was reading books. I was talking to guys and trying to befriend people who would show me something. You know, just like a junkie. You know, I just needed to get it as much as I can. And the thing is, today I'm the same. Even though I know it doesn't work like that, that passion and drive to just get as much jiu-jitsu as I can just hasn't changed for me. Yeah. I'm the same.
And it's amazing. It's amazing that it's a fantastic sport that it's been able to keep your love for it ignited that whole time. Because naturally, with sports and high-level competitions and stuff like that, you have peaks and troughs, and people fall out of love with it a little bit and they step away. But the fact that you've still got that love for it just goes to show what kind of sport it is for those people that think about getting into it. You know, take it from one of the best.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I think one of the great things about competition now is like you've got the masters. So when you don't compete as an adult anymore, you can compete as like an over 30s and an over 40s, and it keeps that competitive drive alive.
Yeah.
You know, because like regardless of how hard I train, I'm not going to be able to keep up with the pace of a 25-year-old black belt. That's not going to happen for me now at a high level competition. So, but I can still hold my own at high level tournaments against former world champions that are my age. So, I think that's one of the things that really keep that competitive drive alive, is that you can be competitive at whatever age you are in jiu-jitsu, and I just love that about it.
So you got into jiu-jitsu at 31. How old are you now?
47.
And how long did it take you to get to black belt?
10 years.
Wow.
11 years.
It's something I'm really keen to know the answer to, mate. So in the beginning, you have a job and you're training, then you make that step to train, you know, as much as you possibly can. I'm assuming at the same time holding down a job, progressing through the ranks, learning more and more. When was that point when you made that switch? Because we were talking about work-life balance earlier. When did you make that switch to effectively work-life integration, where you knew you wanted to do that full-time and earn money from it, build a career from it, a business from it, and do it all day, every day for the rest of your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I went back to college when I was because when I was sort of 16, I couldn't read or write. So I went back to college in my 20s and trained as a plumber, and I was a plumber for many years, and
Nice.
that was my job. I was a self-employed plumber, and loved it. I loved the job. There was never a day where I just didn't fancy doing it. I always enjoyed it. But of course, like, it's the dream. The dream is to do your passion for a job. I mean, I try not to ask too many questions or look into it too deeply in case someone, in case I fuck it up. It is the dream life. I couldn't want for more. But I was sort of teaching 3 days a week in this was about 2008. I was teaching 3 days a week in these small sports halls and stuff, and church halls, and it was great. And we were doing okay. It wasn't very busy, but I was really enjoying it, and we were getting a little bit of support. And then I moved from there. I was in the Purbeck, the Isle of Purbeck, which is a lovely part of Dorset. And then we moved to Bournemouth, and I pretty much lost all of my students because the commute was too far for them to come. And so I was kind of starting from scratch, really. So I said to my wife, let's find somewhere small. We'll just start small, and we'll just find somewhere to do a few classes. And she came back and she said, this was the next day. So I found this great place, perfect. We'll go and see it. And it was 7,000 square feet, and it was a full-time lease. And I said, I shat myself basically. I just couldn't see how we could make it work. But she was so positive and confident that we could, and I wasn't. But I I wanted it to, but I just couldn't see how it was going to work. But we went for it, and we had a complete standing start. We had no. I mean, most jiu-jitsu clubs, most martial arts clubs really are built on the back of a coach leaving a team and taking a load of the members, and that's him. That's his running start. You know, most clubs will start up with 20 or 30 members that came with that coach from the last place that he taught or trained, and that's very common now, and teams split. But we had a complete standing start. I got that gym with no members, and looking back, it was the stupidest thing I could possibly do, and it was such hard work. You know, it was very, very difficult. But you know, with a little bit of faith and a lot of graft, we managed to grind it out. But yeah, that was about 2008. So I managed to kind of. I couldn't afford to pay people to run the desk and that sort of stuff, so I had to do that myself. It was very difficult to try and work and do that. And eventually, after about 6 months, we just had to take the plunge, and we literally sunk everything we had into it. We sort of kitted it out as best we could with the money that we could afford to spend, and went for it. And for the first 6 years, I won't lie, for the first 6 years, it was a money pit. It was just tough. You know, I was selling my car and selling my watch, and my wife was selling her jewellery, and I couldn't take any wage. It was just an absolute grind for about 6 years, and then suddenly, like 1 month, my wife said to me, "We can afford to pay for bills this month. You know, we're not in debt this month. We're not in a deficit," and it was a real surprise and a shock. And like after a few more months, I kind of like thought, we might actually make a business and a living out of this, you know, rather than it just be a really expensive hobby. And I suddenly, after about 6 years, started to get some real belief that we could build a real great life for our family and our kids, you know. And it was a great life for our kids because they would come in after school, roll around on the mats and just play, do the kids' classes, and then it was a way that I could see them every day, regardless of what time I was working to. They could come in and spend some time with me at the gym. And then, so after about 6 years, it kind of like I saw and I had faith that we could make it a real viable business. And then it became quite profitable by about 7 years. And we haven't looked back.
That's insane, mate. And am I right in thinking you have more than one gym now?
Yeah, we have three.
Three.
Full-time gym. And we have 18 affiliate gyms.
Wow.
Whoa. So you've really built that then?
Yeah, we're quite busy, and it's gone well. You know, we just for me, it's like although the graft was hard and the stress was high, as soon as we didn't have any financial worries, it's like I'm living a dream day to day. You know, I'm not. I know some people say that, but it's just I can't imagine. My kids say to me, "Oh, if you could be anything in the world, what would you be?" You know, they're just little and. I told them that what I am now is what I would want to be. What I would always want to be is what I am now and what I have now. I'm very blessed.
Yeah, well,
that's awesome.
Well, you say blessed, mate, but you come from a disadvantaged background and climbed out of the gutters, let's say, and made it to the top, mate. So obviously, a whole host of respect for Mark and I on that one, and probably most of the guys that train with you and know you will probably feel the same way that we do as well. So,
but you know, it's like the normal. One man's normal is another man's, you know, weird, right? I mean, for me, like the upbringing that I had was perfectly normal. I mean, I guess it was extreme even for the area, but it was a tough area that I was brought up in, and there was a lot of people in a lot of very difficult situations. So, not having parents there and being hungry and not going to school and not having clothes and just the most basic needs that a kid needs. It wasn't alien to me. It was a normal life for me, you know. Of course, my kids have got everything they could possibly want and need, and I want to give them every start that I never had. But for me, I never look back and think, "Oh, woe is me." It was the normal for me. You know, it wasn't difficult at the time because it was the norm.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just blessed. I feel blessed anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's been hard work, but I feel blessed.
Do you think, you know, when you opened the gym and you are struggling, do you think that drove you on because you came from such a difficult upbringing, kind of, I guess, building that gym didn't really seem that, I mean, it was hard, obviously, there's a lot of grab, but compared to growing up, did you ever go and think, ain't that bad? I got food in my belly and a roof on my head. We just got to work hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it may be strong, and I think it may be very, very tenacious. I think, like, living on the streets is really difficult. Like, a lot of people think that they're bums, and they just live on the streets because they want to be bums, and I'm sure there are some that do. But if you're not a junkie or bum, and you generally have got and you're a kid and you're living on the streets, it's very difficult. It's hard. You've got to find food. You've got to find safety. You've got to stay warm. You've got to stay dry. All of these things take time and planning, and it is very stressful being on the streets. And there are predators out there when you're a young person on the street that will try and take advantage of you. You know, you've got to be really disciplined. I mean, that sounds weird because I lived on the streets. I didn't have a job, but it wasn't just a case of sitting on a park bench and standing all day. I was a young man. I wasn't a junkie or an alkie or anything like that. I just literally had no other options. I had no family, I had no money. The hospital wouldn't take me because I've been in trouble for fighting in all of them. So I had no further options. So it made me disciplined. It made me tenacious, and I suppose it gave me some drive. But the problem is, like, you can't magic money. You know, you can magic effort, and you can force work ethic and effort and time, but you can't create money out of nothing. So it was still incredibly stressful because you just didn't have the money. That was the hard thing. I didn't care about the work. I didn't care about all that. But having the constant financial worry when we were building the gym was very draining. But yeah, I guess it definitely would help because it made me disciplined. It made me tough for sure.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I don't know what to say to that, mate. I know you relatively well, but I didn't know that much about you. So obviously, thanks for sharing.
I'm a much better listener than I'm a talker. And people have asked me to come on podcasts before, and I've said no because I don't particularly think that I'm very interesting, and I'm not the best talker, but I'm a very good listener. Like, one of the best skills that I've ever had, and I think I've got it naturally, was to listen. You know, I think you can learn so much just by listening to people. I couldn't read or write as a kid, but I knew how to communicate with people, and I knew how to get the best out of a situation, and I knew how to, if I wanted to learn a skill, watch people that do that skill and copy what they're doing. Yeah. So I was always very good at listening. It was a skill that has helped me in good stead throughout my whole life. Yeah. Mate, but talking so much.
No, mate. No, I love it, mate. Honestly, it's brilliant. Keep talking, mate. I'm just enjoying it, genuinely. No, it's been brilliant. So, like, I just want to get onto sort of like the competition side of things. We've had a real great insight into your life there, mate. And I really appreciate you choosing Mark and I to share that with. I'm pretty sure you probably don't share that with just everybody, but most of the world will now get a chance to see you and who you are. So it's pretty amazing. I just want to get onto sort of like the high level competing in BJJ. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk through your typical training days, like what you're probably now technically classified as a professional athlete, I imagine, because of how many competitions you do and the training level and the volume that you do. So I want to talk about, like, what's your daily routine for training? How do you mentally prepare for a fight? Do you have any sort of like coping strategies that you use to sort of settle the nerves? Because in your sport, it's you on your own versus someone else. So you can't, in a team sport, rely on 14 other guys in rugby to sort of help and drag you up through. So, you know, just talk us through like little bits about that, really.
Yeah, sure. I think if I was in a team sport, I think I'd be so much more worried about letting the rest of the team down. Yeah. Because when it's me, it's just me. Yeah. But I think so. A normal day for me would be like I do this. I get up and we have breakfast with the kids, and then I do the school run, and then I go straight from the school to the gym. And my friend Trevor comes in, Trevor Chamberlain, and we talk shit for a while, and then we drink some coffee. Then we get on the mat and do some drills, and do some training. And at about lunchtime, I'll lift weights. Depending on where I am in the season and where my next tournament is, will depend on whether I'm lifting heavy weights or just like maintenance. Because I think it's one of the difficult things about you've got to try to plan your season as best as you can, because some guys, like let's say for example, I'm competing in the Pan Ams. You'll have a guy that's been preparing for 12 months for that tournament and hasn't competed in another tournament, and he's put everything he's got into that one tournament. But I might have competed every weekend for the last 4 weekends. So my cardio is not going to be on point because you can't push yourself so hard mid-season. But but that guy's peaked at just the right time. So it can be difficult, and you never quite know what you're going to face. But but I'll lift weights, and again, depending on when I'm competing next, will depend on whether they're heavy weights or whether I'm just maintaining. And I do a little bit of cardio, sort of mid-afternoon. I do the school run in the evening with my missus, and we take the kids to the gym, and train with the kids a little bit, play with the kids, and then we have like some grappling in the about 6 o'clock. We spar, we roll, and then I go off and teach my sessions. So I've started teaching a few private classes lately, which I've not done for a long time. I never really enjoyed it, if I'm honest, teaching private classes, but I've really started enjoying it lately. So I've got 3 or 4 clients that I teach, and so I donate a little bit of time. I give a bit of time to those guys. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of it. I teach my evening class, and we roll in the class and stuff. And then, of course, there are days where me and a few other black belts, we get together and we just go hard. We roll really, really hard. But again, mid-season, it's difficult. Finding that balance of maintaining what you have, not losing your cardio, but not tiring yourself out too much for the next tournament is a tough balance, especially if you're carrying a niggle or an injury. You need to stay mobile and active, because if you don't, mid-season, your weight can go all over the place, and you've got to maintain that weight, because the last thing you want to be worrying about with all the other things that you've got to worry about is being heavy on the scales,
Yeah.
Too many people place too much emphasis on that weight, but I think if you're a professional, that should be the smallest thing on your mind. I think making weight is something that you must do as a professional regardless. It shouldn't be in question.
Nutrition is the bottom of that pyramid, isn't it? It's the bottom of that pyramid. Your nutrition is, let's face it, in athletes now, in professional sport, nutrition is pretty done. There's no one doing something different on the nutrition front that's going to make you better than them unless you're cheating with PEDs. So nutrition is kind of like, you're like, right, as a basic level, as a professional athlete, it's the basic part of it all.
Yeah, definitely. And the nutrition stuff is, it's right at the bottom of that pyramid, as you say. But too many people worry too much about their weight, and it shouldn't be a worry. If you're disciplined, you should be all right.
Yeah.
If you're disciplined, you're okay.
Yeah.
So I am. But again, depending on whether I'm carrying a little bit of an injury, and I was carrying a knee injury, and I had to have surgery mid-season.
Yeah.
I found it difficult to kind of like, I found it difficult to train too hard, because I had to focus a bit more on maintaining the weight and not aggravating my knee. So there's so many things to consider. But like, if at the moment I feel great, I've got no injuries. It's Monday today. I'm on weight. I could compete on the weekend if I needed to.
Yeah.
Make weight comfortably the weekend. So I'm on weight. I feel great. I've got no injuries. I'm absolutely chomping at the bit to get back out there and compete. So really the nutrition and the weight side, really, you get into a rhythm and a routine. It's pretty straightforward. But you've got to be safe. You've got to listen to your body. You've got to know. You've got to know what your weight is every day. You've got to know if you can work around your injuries, whether I'm maintaining, whether I'm driving, depending on the week coming or the weekend after, will depend on how hard I push myself, because I've got a little bit extra rest time. Yeah. As far as like mentally prepared, I think I'm a bit different to a lot of people, because we were talking to this lady the other day who's like a sports therapist, a hypnotherapist,
Yeah.
And we're talking about some techniques to some of our students, and it was some of the stuff she was saying was very interesting, and a lot of it I've used naturally over the years. That has been beneficial to me. On the day of the tournament, I don't feel too nervous. I feel pretty good. And I think if you've trained properly and trained well, your confidence is going to be high. If you feel ready, you're probably ready. You're gonna, if you train, you know that if you've watched EastEnders, and you probably could have made train if you didn't, that you probably not going to feel great on comp day. I'm quite disciplined with my training. I will make sure that I'm on the mat when I'm supposed to be on the mat. I don't miss sessions. I don't miss rounds. I try to do all the things I should do. So I generally feel pretty confident on Friday and excited. I really want to. When I walk into the arena and the smell and the noise and the testosterone, and I love it. I mean, I really, really love it. Like when you go to the big tournaments like the Worlds and the Pans and the Euros and stuff, it's an incredible experience. And once you've done it, like at the minute I come off the mat in the Euros, I was like, I've got to start preparing for next year. You know, I just loved it. And so for me, fight days is really enjoyable. I really love the fight. I really enjoy it. I just want to not let myself down doing anything stupid. I got guillotined when I was a brown belt by rushing in. You know, I made a stupid mistake and I rushed in, and it still keeps me awake at night. But we learn from our experiences, right? So as long as I don't do anything stupid and I can implement my game, I'm confident that I'm going to have a good result, and I feel great. I love it. Even mat side, when most of the people have stood there shitting themselves, I feel like I'm on fire. I feel electric. I love it. For me, the difficult period is the 2 or 3 days before, if I'm abroad. Like when I was in fact, I think probably my best performance of the season was at the New York Open. And actually, after I spoke to you about my glycogen levels, and I think I felt really confident on the day because I just felt really strong. That was a big.
We did a little bit of training together, didn't we? We spoke about carbohydrates, and you were showing me your average day diet, and you know, carbs aren't your enemy; they're actually your friend. And like you say, you're maintaining weight, you've increased the carbs, so your energy levels are just like you say, through the roof. And that's a big thing when I'm 150 grams a day for healthy brain function of carbohydrates, roughly.
Yeah.
I know athletes.
I felt great.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, I felt good. I felt strong. I felt powerful. I loved it. That was a big turning point, actually. Although I've done quite well in the season so far up until then, I think that was the turning point. That really focusing on like simple thing like carbohydrates. I wasn't taking enough carbohydrates, and so taking more was a big turning point. But going back to the New York Open, I think the 2 or 3 days before that in New York was really tough for me, and I always struggle 2 or 3 days before, and I don't know whether it's because I don't think it's because I don't want to embarrass myself in front of my students. And of course, this is something that I think holds a lot of black belts back from competing because they don't want to get humbled in front of their students, which I think is a shame because I think there's huge benefits to competing. It improves your game in so many ways. I mean, it really improves you as a coach because you've got all of that extra experience that you can pass on to your students and carry them through these difficult times, like in the physical and mental struggles throughout that competition. Because competition can last, a long time, like 11, 12 matches in a day. You know,
really?
It can be tough. And you've got to really help your students sometimes get through those experiences. And having all that extra experience, I think, is really beneficial. But, a lot of guys don't. I do compete. I enjoy competing. I think everyone, if they can, should. But I think it wasn't because of that. It wasn't because I know my students, and I think if I'm that worried about my students not respecting me if I lose, then I've got the wrong students, or they've got the wrong coach. I think like having the respect for my peers is important to me because obviously I've got huge respect for the pioneers of jiu-jitsu, and when you go to these big tournaments, they're all there. They're all there watching. I think for me, I just want to put in a good performance. So, like for those 3 days before, I phone home a lot. I try to relax a lot. I try to keep my heart rate down. I find myself visualizing a lot, but it's usually in a positive way. But visualization is great if you can just make sure you keep your heart rate down, because sometimes you can find yourself exhausted after 10 minutes of it. And so I walked 50,000 steps a day in New York every day, just pacing the pavements just to keep busy and stay active, and doing some rowing and stuff just to make sure I was on weight. But yeah, I mean, I think I have some kind of like, I have a few key words that I use to when I talk to myself, and I kind of try to meditate a little bit. It's very mild meditation. I've never been big into anything like that, but just to try to relax myself and just give myself a bit of a talking to. I try to convinced myself that I've done everything that I could. I've prepared in the best way that I know. And you're going to go out there and you're going to do what you're going to do, and it's going to be what it's going to be. And the following day, everything's going to be fine. But I battled with it a little bit 2 or 3 days before, which is kind of like the opposite. Usually people are really confident 2 or 3 days before, and then on the day they're crapping it. Yeah, so it's like the opposite for me, and I don't know why, but I am going to try and work on it, because sometimes I think it can be a little bit tiring, and you can find yourself feeling a little bit heavy, you know, and a little bit leggy on the day. But now I feel on the actual day, I love it. I love the noise and the crowd and all my friends there, and seeing the people I only see at tournaments, and we talk, and we know we're going to fight, but it's just, I love it, mate. I just love it. I love everything about it. I really do.
How did you get on in New York?
I won it.
Nice. So it works then. The system works.
Well, I think it gave me a lot more confidence to drive the pace, to push the pace, because I felt that in power. Sometimes when you feel a bit leggy, you just you can get into the mindset, do what you do. If you make a mistake, punish him. But I was forcing the mistakes in New York, and I submitted all of my opponents, and I was jumping up and down in the bullpen. I must have looked quite intimidating. Well, that's not why I was doing it. I just felt great, and it was the first tournament of the season that I really focused on getting my carbs right, and that's again thanks to Ben giving me that great advice, and it made a huge difference, a huge impact. And I was eating like chocolate chip cookies and all the stuff that I'm not allowed to eat in between matches. So I was feeling great.
Mate, so last year I was, we're friends on Facebook, and I watched you fly all around the world. I couldn't keep up with you, and I thought I travelled a lot, and I'm like, where is he now? Just watching this plane on Facebook everywhere. It's insane, mate, the level that you maintain for competing and, pushing yourself. In all those years, in all those competitions, in all those countries, what has been so far your career highlight?
So my career highlight in terms of like competing, and my career highlight as in jiu-jitsu, I think are different.
Okay.
Cool. I think like in jiu-jitsu, like watching my son become a Cage Warriors champion, that was great for me. Mm-hmm. He's been training since he was 3 or 4. He's 19 now. That was a very emotional day. It was awesome. It was great. I love watching my students compete and helping them through that. That's so inspiring for me to watch them do it, because I know how much they're shitting it and they still do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone posted, it might have been one of you guys on Instagram the other day, that like courage is not being afraid, it's being afraid and doing it anyway, right? Yeah. And I think the guys that I know are struggling mentally to deal with that, and they do it, is so inspiring. So that I get so much out of watching my students compete. I love it. I think in terms of competition, competing for RMBJJ for the first time was really good. I really loved that. We had a great experience. Me, Ruben, Dowdy, Jim Bob, Jay, and a few of the other guys went out to Paris and competed in the Mega European Championships in 2017. That was a great trip. And you can imagine what it was like. It was awesome. It's not like a regular training trip, but it was
slightly different.
Really made great memories. Yeah. And we've still got the Facebook group, the WhatsApp group going from that day that we created it in Paris, and it's still active every day.
Nice.
Wow. Made some great friends that day that are still going to be friends. We're going to be friends for life. I know it. So complete for RMBJJ for the Marines in the Europeans was brilliant. I managed to win it, fortunately. And the lads all did well too, and that was amazing. I think my best performance was New York, New York Open. And whenever I think of New York, I always think of you, Ben, because of that great advice you gave me. Yeah. Because that it made a big change for me. I went out to Atlanta in 2000. I was at brown belt and competing in the brown and black combined, and 2013, I think, and I fought 3 divisions. I fought middleweight, ultra heavy, because there was an ultra heavy that didn't have an opponent. He was 288 pounds.
Wow.
And I fought heavy.
Right.
And I took triple gold that day after 13 matches or 14 matches. So that was, for me, that was a great day. And I remember, like, I'm usually quite calm and I'm quite reserved usually. I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed the night. You know what I mean? I went to town on it. I loved it, and had a great time there in Atlanta. And I'm looking forward to going back there. But it's that was a great experience for me, because it kind of like it showed me for the first time where I'm at. You know, competing against a high level guys and where I'm at, and that was a great experience. So that was good. But yeah, I've had some real good experiences. You know, probably my best performance was New York. Europeans this year, 2020, was fantastic. Again, the experience was awesome. The atmosphere was phenomenal. I had a tough division this year. There was like, the world number 1 was in my division. The world number 3 was in my division. It was tough. And I lost out in the semis to world number 1. We had a really good match. But I beat some top guys. So again, for me, it's about having a good performance. I don't fear losing. That's all. Yeah. I don't want to lose. I want to win. But like, if I can come away and have a good performance and lose, that I'm happy with that. I'll phone home and my wife will know that I'm content with what's happened. You know, I would have learned something, or maybe you know, I've improved in some way in that match, and I'll take that from it. I'll take the positives from it. If I've had a great tear up with someone, but I've lost out, then I'm satisfied with that. So the Europeans was a good experience for me. I love that as well. Mexico City was awesome. I managed to take double gold there, but like, for me, the city was awesome. I really enjoyed the place. Yeah. Some place to go to, it's like really easy to keep on weight because the food's so shit. Like if you go to
New York.
If you go to the Manila Open, right? Some of the shit they eat there is just, you just wouldn't feed it to your dog. I love the Philippines. I've spent like over a year there. I love it. I've trained a lot in the Philippines. But the food's just awful. Yeah. So it's really easy to make weight. When you go somewhere like Mexico, where the food, everywhere you go, the food's just phenomenal. It's tough. Yeah. But I had a great experience there. I loved the city, loved the place, loved the people. I heard loads of bad stuff about it, so I was a bit worried. But actually, I had a great experience there. I loved it. Oh, Moscow was good as well, because there's this Chechen guy. I forget his name now. I have to message him and apologise. And like, we'd already fought twice that season, and I knew that he was going to get to the final. He was tough, mate. He's like he was made of stone. And we had a really tough battle in our first match, and he beat me. And we had a really, really tough battle in our second match, and I beat him. And I wanted to fight him again. And if I did, I knew it was going to be tough, you know. So and I managed to fight him in the final, and I managed to beat him. And we had an absolute war, you know. So that was great. And my wife came with me to Moscow as well. So that was awesome. We had a really nice little trip, and I really enjoyed getting the better of him again. Yeah. That's what
nice. 2-1 now. Couple of points I want to go back to because you've given us your some career highlights, which is obviously absolutely incredible because you haven't got one, you've got more than a dozen, which is just goes to show how. I wanted to go back to like your experiences as a coaches and how you kind of like how you almost feel when your guys are competing and you feel as proud and as excited for them as they're about to compete as you do about to compete. And we've said this, I don't know how many times and how many podcasts we've sort of reiterated this point, and it's hang around with those people that are happy for you when you're doing something. Like, do you know what I mean? And when you're about to step in that cage, or you're about to step in that into your first BJJ match, and your coach is behind you, and he's excited as you are, and as happy for you as you are for yourself. That's the kind of people that Mark and I always say that we kind of hang around with, and it's just an amazing quality in a human to be able to be happy for someone else doing something well. Because too many people in this world are jealous of you because you've done better than them, because they ain't willing to put the work in or something like that. So, that for me, mate, is a trait from, obviously that's amazing to hear that. And that was the first thing that you said before you even went into the fighting. So that's, something that I always think's a great trait in a human. The second point I wanted to go back to is we're talking about elite athletes, and you are an elite athlete. You're up there in the world. We'll get on to where you are ranked at some point, I'm sure, in the future of this podcast. But I wanted to talk to you when you said you got guillotines because you rushed in, and it eats you up inside. Now, we're talking to Kieran last week, and he was saying about the elite level guys that play international rugby. They've had a setback or something like that in their career that they can use and reserve. Do you ever, like, in the middle of a competition, do you ever think back to that guillotine and just, does it slow you down? Do you use that sort of like negative into a positive, if that makes sense?
I use it as a positive, like in training, and I'll almost put myself there a lot to see how much I can give.
Yeah.
You know, like martial arts is about risk and reward. You know, how much can you risk for the reward, and is the reward worth the risk? And you got to get that balance right. And sometimes you can't risk anything because you don't need to, or you don't need to. Maybe you're up on points, and all I need to do is just see out the round, or maybe I'm down on points, and with 30 seconds, I've got to risk everything. Yeah. But I play in those ranges of risk and reward. Yeah. So I'll get guillotined in class, you know, several times because I'm over risking, but we have to push ourselves to see just what we've got and what we can take. So I use it as a positive from that perspective. Yeah. I don't use it in the match because in the match I'm so focused on the here and now and what's going on. I've had like two negative experiences in jiu-jitsu, and again they're positive experiences. The first one was my first ever match at the black belt. I really wasn't ready. I wasn't in shape. I was carrying a really bad knee injury. But I'd heard people say, just get it done, just get it done. You know, your first one's going to be stressful, get out of the way, and it'll be done. And I did. I just took a no time limit match, and I got submitted in like 2.5 minutes or something. And I hated it. I vowed from that moment I would never fight not in shape again. Yeah. Never. And so again, it's a positive because like I've made sure that when I've competed, I've trained properly, and if I wasn't ready, or I knew that I wasn't going to be able to be ready, I wouldn't compete. You know, I wouldn't put myself out there to lose. I don't mind losing, but I need to put in a good performance. Yeah, you know, if I'm able to compete with these guys, I will. If for whatever reason I'm not, whether it be because I can't prep or because I've got an injury, I won't put myself out there because there's nothing positive to be gained from getting your ass kicked. There's lots of positive to be gained from having a great match and losing. There's loads of positives you can take from that. Going out there, not performing, not competing, and getting your ass kicked. There's nothing positive to take from that. Mm-hmm. And the other one was, so the first one was, in Bristol with, don't get me wrong, the guy was awesome. And I'm confident he would have beat me anyway. But like I said, I don't mind losing. I just want to put in a performance, and I didn't. And the other one was when I was at brown belt, that guillotine, and that was David Lee guillotined me, and we were kind of standing up, and we were kind of hesitant, and it was a no-gi match, and nothing kind of happened for the first minute and a half, and I just dove in for a double, and he caught me with a fantastic game. Dave's a great competitor again. Please don't think I'm taking anything away from him. I've got huge respect for both guys, huge respect. But it was about me. It wasn't about them. It was about me making a mistake, me learning from that mistake. And I do. Like, I learn from mistakes all the time. I learn from those two so well I could probably repeat them perfectly, but I try not to. Yeah. And I try to learn all the time. And those are the two things that I look back and like, fucking moron. Why did you do that? But again, it's a positive because I've learned so much from it.
And also, you got to have these setbacks to learn and take a step back and then go forward again. You know, if you always win, if you win everything all the time, at some point you're going to lose, and you don't know how to deal with it, do you? You know what I mean? And losing, like you say, is a very big part of becoming a high level elite athlete because you can't win.
The first thing you learn in jiu-jitsu is how to get your ass kicked. Yeah. The first thing. Yeah. If you've got no humility, jiu-jitsu isn't a sport for you. Yeah. It's, you know, I'm not sure that you can learn humility. I think you have to have a certain amount. I think you have to have some ego in jiu-jitsu as well, because if you didn't have any ego, you'd be a lettuce on the mat. Do you know what I mean? You want to be part of your will against somebody else. You need to have a certain amount of ego, but you do need to have some amount of humility, especially in training. So those two experiences were hugely beneficial. I'm extremely grateful for them, but they do sometimes keep me awake at night.
Good though, keep you humble. I like it. we're talking about world rankings and that you fought the number one recently. So last season was a good season for you, if I remember correctly. You went from, well, I'll let you explain. You went from in the hundreds into the top 50s.
I was in the hundreds because I didn't compete the season before. The season, the ranking points go on from the previous year. The way that the IBJJF have done the rankings, it can be a bit confusing. But like I started the season, I think like 300th or something. And before the lockdown, I think I was like in between 15 and 10 or something like that. But the way that the rankings work, like because they carry it over 2 years, if the guy that competed last year doesn't compete in the same tournament this year, those points come off his score. So people are losing points as you're gaining points. So you can move a lot. So I think I was around 10.
Amazing. That's yeah, pretty.
I was disappointed because like I was really confident. We had like a few tournaments to go, like 8 tournaments to go or something. And I was signed up for all of them, and I was, ready to finish the season strong, and I put in a good finish. And this COVID stuff has put play to that, unfortunately. But I'm hoping that when all this craziness is finished, that we'll complete the season. It's important it's no different to any other sport. We want to finish what we started as competitors. We want to finish the season trying to find our best way possible. And finish the tournament. So hopefully the WJJF will do that and allow us to find our place in the rankings as we should have been, and then we can start the following season.
Cool. Well, we obviously wish you all the best of luck, and I know I do. I follow you personally on Instagram and Facebook and that, and when I see those pictures of you with more gold medals every week, it was at one point I was just like, "Is there anything this man can't do?" Yeah. How? Another question about, obviously, you compete all around the world and you do a lot of flying. Now, flying has its negative effects on the human body because you're sat down, you're jet lagged, you're moving from time zones. How far in advance before a competition do you get to your location to either acclimatise or just get your body clock? Have you got a set routine for that?
I try to have, but again, it's like it depends if I'm competing the week before. So, like, if like 1 weekend I might be in New Orleans, and then the following weekend I've got to be in Australia. So I've got to literally finish the tournament, grab my stuff, get to the airport, and fly. But like in a big tournament, I try to be a bit more organised than that. Like normally, I'll go from tournament to tournament. If it's in Europe, I'll come back for a couple of days. If it's a big tournament, then I'll try to get minimum of 1 hour per 1 day per hour time difference. So if the time difference is 12 hours, then I'll try to be there 12 days before. If I can get 1 day per hour time difference, then I can kind of be ready, acclimatised, and ready to go on flight day.
Cool. Nice.
Is that pretty standard, is it? I've never heard that before.
I think so. Works for me.
I'll give that a shot myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, kind of like, I know some of the, I know a few Olympians that kind of have used that method, and it's worked for them. And it works for me. So for a big tournament, I'll try and get out there 1 day per hour time difference, and then I'll feel great on Friday. Then I'm able to train, acclimatise to the weather, acclimatise to the altitude, and get used to the food, and just sort of get my weight right and get my body clock in the right place. And yeah, that works for me.
Goofing.
Yeah, nice, mate, nice. So the plans for the business and your fighting career? So obviously the plans are trying to get to number one, are they? Is that the goal?
Yeah,
is it?
Well, I set myself a goal of top 5, which was like starting at 300 was probably ambitious, but like I was gonna give it everything.
Yeah.
I decided I would put everything that I could into the season. And I was unfortunate that I got that knee injury and I had to have surgery, and I was like 2 months out in the middle of the season. I think were it not for that, I would have achieved my goal some time ago.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident I would have. But I came back pretty quick. I think I had my surgery in end of October, and I was competing first weekend in December. So I was back on the map pretty quick. So my goals now, I want to keep on competing as much as I can. Want to win the World Masters. I mean, that's a big one for me. I'm keen to get back to the Euros and do that again. We started an affiliation, if you like, called Wolf BJJ, which we have several affiliates, which is great. That's been really good. And it's basically just a like-minded people in jiu-jitsu that want to support one another with training, competitions and whatever. We just go and cross-train with other gyms, and it's been a really nice alliance that we've built. And it's been hugely beneficial for a lot of us with our cross-training for our fights and stuff. It's been really great. So I want to continue to work with that. My wife's starting a gi brand, started the gi brand, and she's kind of like, she's really focused on that. We're doing, one of my closest, Martin Ashton, died recently. And before he died, right up until the day he died, he was kind of talking about stuff we could do. And we were talking, this was Martin's idea, about an invitational and to find the best teenager in the world. And so we were going to have like a 10 kilo weight limit, like between, for example, 65 and 75 and 85, and an invitational of 16 kids, in Europe, the best teenager in Europe. And we found a sponsor to put up a load of money to make it like a really nice, like, I think it's like 1,500 quid first prize and a sponsorship deal, all your competitions paid for the year, and it was some really nice prizes in there. And so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that as soon as I'm able to get back to the gym properly. I'm going to get that underway, because at the moment everything's hypothetical. Until people are back training, it's difficult to really make solid plans. But not, I mean, the thing is with invitationals, really, it's very, very difficult to make money. I mean, people don't really make money. That's a labour of love.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mostly a money thing, you know. It costs a fortune to put on. People don't come and watch them, and you get a pittance for the pay-per-view. So really, that's something as a labour of love, and I'm going to do that and dedicate that to my good friend Martin. So I'm looking forward to him achieving that. We've got another tournament called Super 5 Pro that we do like tournaments for only white belts. So it's five-man open weight stuff, and it's that's really good. I really enjoy doing that. So we're going to do more of those. We have like a white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, and then we're going to do black belts next year as well. So that's going to be great.
Awesome.
I want to continue to do those. I'm not looking to open up any more gyms really. I've kind of got my life to a point where I'm extremely happy with the time that I have and what I can dedicate to the important things in my life, you know. So I'm not really looking to get busier. I'm looking to kind of like, if anything, make my life a little bit easier, but just to continue spending time on the things that are important to me. Which is kind of what I've said. You know, I said earlier, like making sure I've got that family life balance right, and having time to enjoy jiu-jitsu. Because before anything, I'm a jiu-jitsu player. Before a competitor or a business owner or a coach, I'm just a guy that loves jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I think like you've got to have that love and that passion for jiu-jitsu, and you've got to have that enjoyment. And if that ceases, nothing else will be right.
Yeah.
So like I want to have the time to enjoy that, you know, that time with my friends, my buddies, and my teammates and my students.
The thing is easy sometimes to get blurred lines between what you love and you do, and if you're doing it for a living, which is like I get to do what I love for a living, and that's training and nutrition and stuff like that. It's sometimes you can push it too far one way, can't you? You know what I mean? And you're right. It's having that perfect balance in life, and no matter what you do, really is kind of key.
It can be easy, I think, to create a nightmare for yourself. You know, you've got the opportunity of having a dream life, and you can turn that dream into a nightmare pretty easily just by getting that balance right.
Yeah.
And you know, I think you have to ask yourself like what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. And you know, I fell in love with jiu-jitsu, like I said, from the very first moment, and I still have that love for it now. And if that changed, I would have to make some big changes in my life to get that back before I could move forward in any aspect of it.
Yeah. Because
everything that I do in life involves jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Everything. I'm like, it's so ingrained in me that if you took jiu-jitsu away from me, I don't know if you'd even recognise me, or if I would recognise myself. Yeah. So if I didn't have that love for it, I'd have to make some serious changes to find that love back, or nothing else. I don't think nothing else would fit into my life as it should. So rule number one, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it. Yeah. Nice.
Do you think you do it for as long as you physically can?
Mate, I was talking to my son Dexter. He's 12. He's also a good competitor. He said to me, "Oh, how long will you compete?" I'm like, "As long as I could tie my own gear and my own belt up, and I can get on the mat, I'll get out there and I'll do it.
Nice, mate.
Why
No.
wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah,
I
no,
know guys that have got to go and do like crappy jobs and stuff, and they work all day, and they get to the gym, broken backs, and blistered hands, and then they've got to train. It's like, mate, and I feel so guilty that these guys are having to really graft in shit jobs that they hate, and then they come into this environment that they love, you know, that I've created for them. I've created that environment. It's something I'm hugely proud of. The mix of people and the building and I'm hugely proud of what we've created, and I'm humbled that they want to come and spend their time with me. And I feel so guilty sometimes that, like, I don't even, if someone said, what do you do for a living? I'm like, nothing really. I don't really do anything, you know. I've got my business into a state where it kind of pretty much works without me, you know. So like I can kind of not be around, and everything runs pretty smooth. And so I never wanted jiu-jitsu to be like an albatross around my neck. I needed to love it, you know. And if I was a slave to it, I don't think I would enjoy it. But like, it's just a part of me wherever I go every day, and I don't have to be anywhere at a certain time or do anything at a certain time. I've just got the best life. But like I said, that dream job can become a nightmare if you don't get that balance right.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah.
I was going to say, are you getting close to wrapping up? Because I've got one last question.
We've got a couple of questions. Still got these two we need to cover. So yeah, cool. Go fine.
No, shoot.
I was just going to say, mate, like, what sort of resources are out there that have been helping you on your journey? Or is there any, you know, people that you want to shout out that have been instrumental in your journey to get to that top 10 in the world? Because it's not an easy process to come from where you've come just to get out of the gutters, let alone become probably one of the key players in jiu-jitsu in the world, which is, you know, so is there any resources, books, websites, people that anybody out there watching this can go and find?
You know what? I don't really watch instructionals and stuff. I don't watch jiu-jitsu really. I watch matches. Have we got a time limit?
No, mate, no time limit, because we're off Instagram live. So if people want to follow and watch the rest of this video, they've got to go to our actual page and watch it, which is good. So.
Oh, cool, mate. Cool. So I don't really watch instructionals and stuff. I watch matches. So like I've learned a lot of stuff from a lot of matches that I've watched. Like people that I would thank. I think my main training partner really is Trevor Chamberlain. We've been good buddies and training partners. We train daily for over 10 years now. And he's always there for me when I need to up my training. Doesn't matter whether he's sick, injured, tired, working nights. He's a fireman, whatever. He's there for me to train. He's a fellow black belt. And Mike Atkinson also is who I train with regularly, and he's at Phoenix with us. He's also a chiropractor, so he's hugely knowledgeable about the classes that I would be teaching if I were here. They cover for me, and they don't ever moan or gripe about it. The guys are happy to support me in my journey. Again, hugely humbling, because I'm sure there are other things that they could be doing that they'll get a lot of enjoyment from. So I'm blessed to have such great people around me. But when we opened Phoenix, like I was really keen to get the right mix of coaches, and there were lots of people that wanted the jobs that I didn't feel were right, and there were lots of members who wanted to train with us that I didn't feel were right for us. And back when we had 10 members and I was throwing 3 of them out, my wife was pulling her hair out, but I had to say it's not the right mix. You've got to get the right people, and we didn't have like meatheads, and we didn't have guys with massive egos. I was very strict on who we allowed to train, and those white belts that started then and now are coaches, and they've come through as like new guys, terrified of their first session, that are now teaching classes of 30 guys. So like, and those guys support me massively, and I literally couldn't do. And I think like when talking about resources, it's like you've got to have all your shit in order. You know, like if you want to go out and compete at a high level, you can't be worried about your bills at home. You can't be worried about the school run. You can't be worried about your job, your business, your classes. You need all that shit taken care of. So you've got to have good people around you to take care of all that, and not require a phone call for it to be taken care of. I just got to go away knowing that it's done, because I go away stressing about stuff. It's going to eat into my mind, it's going to eat into my preparation, it's going to eat into my performance. So You need to, and I'm blessed to be surrounded by good people. These good people were once nervous white belts, and they're now coaches, you know, that are taking care of my business for me while I'm out of the country.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about that, I think, on every single episode of this podcast. I mean, getting the right people around you is key. You know, get rid of the takers and the morale vampires. Get people that are on the same page as you, same values as you, same morals as you, same mission as you. You know, surround yourself with those people. Keep it tight, keep it small and tight, but you know, it's a quality nucleus of people around you.
Yeah, I think I've changed a little bit. I think I was a closed book for many years. I was very, very quiet. I'm very, very determined, and always looked like I was in a bad mood, but never was. And I'm like, I kind of like, as I got older, I've mellowed a little bit, and I kind of talked to more people. But you know, getting the right people around you, again, like anything in life, you have to make mistakes. You know, you have to make mistakes. And like, I'm 47 now, and I hope I've made them all. but I'm blessed to have such great people around us. Our coaches and our gyms are just awesome.
Yeah, nice, mate.
It's good to hear.
And it's important that they're continuing to create the environment that I set up in initially. And my aspirations for the gym must be their aspirations. You know, I have to feel that they're creating an extension of what I want. Essentially, it's not just like me, but it's their interpretation of what I want, and it just has to be right for everyone. You know, ultimately, it pays my bills and it feeds my kids and stuff. So it's really, really important that we continue to grow. But like, it's really interesting to watch the development of our team under our new coaches. It's great. They're still awesome. It's tight, and they're still great competitors and stuff. The feelings sometimes are different, but always good. It's always positive. You know, if you get the right people around you, whatever they put in the mix is going to be beneficial.
I was just I don't know if this is for later on or whatever, but I'll ask anyway. For somebody who's listening to this, who's never trained BJJ before, has zero martial arts experience, what would you say to them, even if they were slightly considering maybe one day potentially walking past the gym and maybe venturing in to start their BJJ journey? What would be the best piece of advice that you give to that person?
Well, certainly, obviously, I'm biased because I'm an advocate of jiu-jitsu, but I've done lots of other martial arts, and I've fought in lots of different styles, but settled with jiu-jitsu ultimately because I believe it's the best for so many life skills and attributes. It gives you so much confidence. Like when I started training jiu-jitsu, I actually felt like I was a real tough guy, and I'd had a lot of fights, and I felt hard and a lot of life experience and lots of training, and I got my ass handed to me, and it was really humbling, and it gave me loads of confidence because I was never one really to speak my mind and stuff, and I always wanted my kids to never have to succumb to peer pressure and have the confidence to say no to people, have the confidence to air their opinion without the fear of being embarrassed for it, because aside from being a physical confrontation, it gives you the confidence to verbalise your feelings a lot more. I think I certainly become much more confident at dealing with a problem verbally since I learned jiu-jitsu. Beforehand, it would probably escalate into a fight really quick, and so it would all go tits. But now, I never fight because I'm confident that I can verbalise myself, in a way that deals with the problem quickly. So I never want my kids to succumb to peer pressure. So it's important for me that they all learn jiu-jitsu. The self-defense stuff is like self-explanatory. It's obvious. If you can control someone in a way that you don't hurt them, to nullify anyone that's trying to attack you, that's the best option. I mean, I know several guys, and I'm sure you guys do too, that have been to prison because they've been in a street fight. No one's fault, everyone's pissed. Someone's got punched, someone's head's hit the pavement, and someone's died. And then that guy's gone to jail for 6, 7 years. of his life's been wasted and his life's scarred by that event, which, you know, he might be a really decent guy and that was just an unfortunate situation. Certainly in my experience, I've come across these people. Had he known jiu-jitsu, that wouldn't have been the case. He'd have picked him up, put him on his back, kneed on his belly, and said, you know, I'm going to let you up when you calm down, man. And when you calm down, you can let him up. That's a great skill. It's a great skill to have, to be able to dominate someone and not hurt them. Because ultimately, you know, we don't really want to hurt people unless you're a moron. You know, if you're a moron, don't do jiu-jitsu.
Don't do jiu-jitsu.
Too late.
Mate, just very quickly following on from that, you know, I'm only a blue belt, so I'm still at the beginning of my journey. But I think a lot of people will agree that first 6 months, particularly even like you said, maybe being a tough guy, coming from that kind of background, thinking that you're hard, that first 6 months is horrible because you do get battered by someone half your size, half your weight. You know, I actually remember when you came down, and I think it was Nathan I was training with, and I was a bit knackered, and I thought this would be easy because he looked a lot younger than he actually was. I think he was 16 at the time, and he had me in his guard, and I put my hand down, and one of the things I was learning was about like posting up and do it. So I did that, and he looked at me in the eyes like the Terminator, right, and just sat up and did this crunch. Like most people would just jerk their body up right against and that hand, and he looked me in the eyes and went, just sat up, and I'm like trying to push him down. He's just sitting up, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And he whipped my ass, and I came away from that like, hang on, I'm a fully grown man. I was in the Marines, and I've just been beaten by a 16-year-old. So it's frustrating, isn't it? But
it's frustrating.
I mean, what would be your words of wisdom for that? Because I think that's when a lot of people quit, don't they?
Sorry?
I think that period is when a lot of people quit.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, the amount of guys that train for their first month and they leave for a variety of reasons. One, because they love it so much, they overtrain, injure themselves, and it affects their work, and they realise, I can't do this because I need to work. And then you get the other guys that can't stand the beatings that they get. I mean, it's not beatings like you're not coming away. Black and blue generally. You know, it's a physical sport, so sometimes you get bruised and battered, but it's the constant grind. I mean, it's a grind, isn't it? That first 6 months, you feel like you've been put through a mincer. I mean, someone half your size can make you feel like crap, and then you look across the room, and the guy who's 100 kilos is your next role, and it's like it doesn't get any easier. Yeah. You know, you've got to learn to lose. You've got to learn to lose. And I say this all the time to guys. Just whatever happens, open your game. Doesn't matter if you tap 5, 10, 20, 30 times in a session. It's irrelevant. Open your game. Be relaxed. Try to become comfortable in uncomfortable positions and breathe and just try to move. Sometimes it's impossible. You can't move and you feel like you have your arm off and just tap and then you restart, you know. But I think guys who see training sessions as competition, or they determine their level in the gym, those guys are usually they're always misguided, because that's not the right way to see your training. Your training should be open. I don't care if I get submitted however many times in my training session. My training session is about development, and when I compete, that's where it's important. The training is that it's not important whether I tap somebody else 10, 20, 30 times. So I think having that mindset, it's okay to lose. It's okay to get dominated. It's okay to make a mistake and be punished for it. Because, you know, one day that you aren't always going to be the nail. You're going to become the hammer. And then when someone comes along after you've been there for a couple of months, you suddenly realize, wow, I actually know some stuff. You know, I've got some new guys in the room. I know some stuff. And so you've got to be patient. You've got to learn about humility as much as you can, because you're going to be force-fed it if you don't learn it. and just relax. It's okay to tap. It's okay to lose. Losing in the gym isn't losing. There's no such thing as losing in the gym. It's all about learning in the gym.
Yeah, I like that.
But if you go into the gym with this like, I've got to prove myself, then you won't develop. The guys that come in like blank canvases, like just teach me. I love these guys. You know, I teach a couple of private classes to people, and I only teach a few, and the guys that I teach are the guys that really, really want to learn. You know, guys that really, really want. If someone doesn't I don't feel he's got that desire, then I'll pass him on to one of my friends and say, look, can you train this guy? I don't have time. But I'll commit my time to the guys that don't. These guys, doesn't matter how many times they tap. If every single day they do something or learn something that takes them one step closer to being a black belt, they've had a great day, regardless of results on that day. They might have had their asses kicked for the entire morning, but they've learned something that's going to improve what they do. They've had a great day. Those are the guys that I love to train. The open books, the guys that are happy to just listen and learn. I think the other thing that I would say is in class with drip-fed information at the same rate as all the other classes. It's like being a kid in school. You'll get one kid that gets straight A's in the same class as the guy that's just getting F's and G's, right? Because we all learn at different rates. But usually that's not always natural. I mean, there are guys with natural attributes. Some guys are stronger, faster, younger, whatever. But we've all got the ability to learn to some degree. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I ever had that I would pass on would be to take responsibility for your training. You know, how quick I learn is up to me. Like we can do an armbar in class, and I'm thinking, I really want to work on my back takes. I hope at some point in the next 6 months, the coach starts to talk about back take. You're never gonna progress if that's going to meet your needs, and you're never going to progress as a competitor working like that. You have to decide what you want to work on. Find someone that's going to help you with that. Like it might be someone in your class that's particularly good at it. You say, man, can you do me a favour? Can you just help me out with this thing? Maybe 20 minutes after class or before class one day. You can use resources like books and videos and whatever. You can find a jiu-jitsu fighter that you want to be like, and you watch his matches, you do what he does, and don't make the mistakes that he's made. And just take responsibility. Like, if two guys of equal size and athletic ability go into a club, but one of them is really driving his education as far as jiu-jitsu is concerned, and the other one's just being drip-fed information twice a week, this guy's going to develop at such a rate, they'll be almost unrecognisable in 6 months. You would think that they were different belt levels. It can be huge. So one of the best pieces of advice I would give is definitely take responsibility for your training. And the last thing I would say is find a club that's right for you. Find a coach that's right for you. We don't all gel. We're not all the same. Some schools have different practices. Some are much more traditional. Some are a bit more laid back, and you might not like the character or attitude of the coach. It just might not be your cup of tea. And it's not like a prison sentence. You haven't got to fulfill your time there. If you go to a couple of classes, you don't like it, try somewhere else. Try 5, 6, 7 clubs. You might come back to the one that you liked. You try it first of all, but try a few and make sure you get one that's a good fit for you. Otherwise, you won't develop quickly if you don't have some sort of bond with the coach. If you don't have some kind of you can't relate to the coach in some way, you'll find it difficult to really develop at a good pace. You get a coach that you bounce off well, you understand when he speaks, what he's saying, what he means, and you feel comfortable to be able to go and ask him questions and take instruction from him. I think that's key. So just try as many clubs as you want. Don't ever feel bad about not trying different places. It's okay. Just go and find one that's a good fit.
Yeah, awesome. Nice, good advice. Good advice.
Nice. We've got one more question.
Okay.
What your favourite fighter? You did mention him again at the beginning of this podcast, but if you can just sort of reiterate your favourite fighter for us again, I can't remember.
It's a difficult one really because I'm so indecisive. I'm the same in restaurants. Like, which dessert should I have? I'll just have 2. So if I could have like in the UK, when I was coming through, I found Nick Brooks to be hugely influential. Great coach, great competitor, great guy. He was very generous with his time with me, and he didn't know me from Adam. I trained with him lots. I wasn't a member of his team, but he was very open, and I loved watching him compete at the Europeans and stuff. Won it many times, and I was always a very big fan of Nick, and always Dickie Martin also, who was a Pan Am's champion, World Masters champion, and Absolute champion. He's achieved more, I think, in the Masters than anyone else in the UK. Dickie was hugely influential. competitor, as a coach. I think if we, like, of all time ever, I think I'd say Galval. Like, I'm fortunate enough to have been given my black belt from Terere, who was like my idol. And going to Suzuka Tennis Club in Rio with him, and the whole crowd is chanting his name, was an experience that's like so memorable. And like, regardless of whoever I could get my black belt off, he's the guy that I would want it off. You know, I'm so proud I've achieved that with him. I like Galval, I think, because he's everything he does perfect. You know, his preparation is always perfect. He never lets himself down. You know, he's such a great competitor. The risk and reward we were talking about earlier, you know, he's got that nailed. Mm-hmm. He's got that nailed. You know, he knows just how much he needs to risk. He does just what he needs to do, and then makes you work for the rest. You know, he always likes to finish. He likes to take the back, and he's so inspirational. I'm again blessed to have toured with him. I toured with him a few years ago, and learned a lot from him. I've had him at my gym and trained with him in America, and spent a bit of time with him. I'm very grateful to have done that. So I think probably Galval. If I had to choose, I hate choosing, but if I had to choose, and then like someone like Jeff Glover, who's like the opposite of Galval, who's like Galval's a winner. He's like a 100% winner. You know, he's an absolute winner. But Jeff Glover is about the art. He loves to be creative. He loves to try new stuff. He loves to play. He can lose a match and come off with a bigger smile than he would have had he won it if he was creative, you know. So I really love that aspect. I'm not sure at the highest level what that balance is between creativity and becoming the absolute best. Mm-hmm. Because if you wander off the perfect path too much, I think maybe you lose something a little bit. But I love watching Jeff, and I love listening to him talk and stuff. But if I had to choose, if you forced me to choose, you twisted my arm, Galval.
Nice. Love it. Look, mate, we're going to finish up there. I just want to say, mate, it's been amazing, and I've literally probably been the best hour and 28 minutes I've had for a long time listening to you talk and sharing your experiences on coming from a broken family background to becoming the man that you are now, family man, fighter, businessman. I'm in awe, mate, genuinely.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy.
Great to hear.
It's well, we haven't spoken for a long time, mate. So it's good to see you first of all, and secondly, mate, just to reiterate what Ben said, mate. Thank you for being our first podcast that you've ever done.
Yeah,
and being so open and honest and
almost explicit.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, it brilliant, mate. Genuinely.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure. Great to see you both again, and look forward to sharing a map with you guys again soon.
Yes, mate. As soon as this lockdown's over, we'll see you back at Lincoln for a bit of a reorg meet-up. That'll be lush.
Awesome. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Done.